If acting was hard for me, I wouldn't do it. It is something that I like to do. When evolution is outlawed, only outlaws will evolve. I have as much authority as the Pope. I just don't have as many people who believe it. From the book, Brain Droppings. I think it is the duty of the comedian to find out where the line is drawn and cross it deliberately. Frisbertarianism is the belief that when you die, your soul goes up the roof and gets stuck. I enjoy criticizing on the basis of, it's you folks, because I was never a part of this. I never identified with a local group. I never belonged to any club, organization, or state. I love New York City, but that's a chauvinistic thing. I suppose it's a belonging thing. I'm not proud of this country. I don't care what happens to it. I honestly don't give a shit if it all goes up in flames. Having that freedom just made the writing so much more fun. As long as you have observations to make, as long as you can see things and let them register against your template, as long as you're able to take impressions and compare them with the old ones, you will always have material. People have always asked me, don't you ever think you might run out of ideas? Don't you ever worry about not having enough to say anymore? Occasionally that does flash through my mind because it is a natural human impulse to think in terms of beginnings and endings. The truth is, I can't run out of ideas, not as long as I keep getting new information and I keep processing it. Floating around the internet these days, posted and emailed back and forth, or a number of writings attributed to me. And I want people to know they're not mine. Don't blame me. Here's a rule of thumb, folks. Nothing you see on the internet is mine, unless it came from one of my albums, books, HBO shows, home box office, or appeared on my website. From his official website in response to the massive number of jokes and rants on the internet that are falsely attributed to him. Who says life is sacred? God? Hey, if you read your history, God is one of the leading causes of death. From Back in Town, 1996. For centuries now, man has done everything he can to destroy, defile, and interfere with nature. Clear-cutting forests, mining mountains, poisoning the atmosphere, overfishing the oceans, polluting the rivers and lakes, destroying wetlands and aquifers. So when nature strikes back and smacks him on the head and kicks him in the nuts, I enjoy that. I have absolutely no sympathy for human beings whatsoever. None. And no matter what kind of problems humans are facing, whether it's natural or man-made, I hope it always gets worse. Life is worth losing. Lesson learned. Always check mental health of creative partner beforehand. Love the actors. Love the crew. Had a great time. Couldn't wait to get the fuck out of here. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have the freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. It's called the American dream because you have to be asleep to believe it. Even though I don't smoke, I'm not one of those fanatics you run into. In fact, I love watching cigarette smokers in their sad little sealed-off areas, sucking away. Deep lines in their faces, pre-cancerous lessons taking hold, the posture and body language of petty criminals. You know what you want to do with what you do with these people? Give them free cigarettes. Let them smoke. Don't sweat the petty things and don't pet the sweaty things. Don't sweat the petty things and don't pet the sweaty things. From his book, Brain Droppings. Most people are not particularly good at anything. Ain't that the truth? From Brain Droppings. Honesty may be the best policy, but it's important to remember that apparently, by elimination, Dishonesty is the second best policy. Second is not all that bad. From Brain Droppings. If you love someone, set them free. And if they come home, set them on fire. From his book, Now Pun and Silly Putty. Somehow, I enjoy watching people suffer. From Brain Droppings. Heart disease has changed my eating habits, but I still cook bacon for the smell. I'm completely in favor of the separation of church and state. My idea is that these two institutions screw up enough on their own, so both of them together is certain death. From Brain Droppings. I have as much... Oh, he says this already. But I have as much authority as the Pope. I just don't have as many people who believe it. On an interview with Jesus from the album A Place for My Stuff, I would never want to be a member of a group whose symbol was a guy nailed to 2 pieces of wood. March 1997. We use the words like spiritual so fast in this culture. 20 years ago, spiritual had a distinct meaning, but now there's a lot of There's a lot of jack-off thinkers who just love to talk about the spiritual. And there's a lot of bogus in bogiosity a word? Is bogodosity a word? It should be. A lot of bogosy is these spiritual seekers. So you have to find another way to express it. I just call it how I fit. From Brain Droppings. Some national parks have long waiting lists for camping reservations. When you have to wait a year to sleep out next to a tree, something is wrong. From his book, Napun and Silly Putty. I don't have a fear of heights. I do. However, I don't have a fear of heights. However, I do have a fear of falling from heights. Introduction to his book, Brain Droppings. Don't confuse my point of view with cynicism. The real cynics are the ones who tell you that everything's gonna be all right. Ain't that the truth? From his book, Napun and Silly Puddings. Standing ovations have become far too commonplace. What we need now are ovations where the audience members all punch and kick each other. From On Campus, 1984. The very existence of flamethrowers prove that sometime, somewhere, someone said to themselves, you know, I want to set those people over there on fire, but I'm just not close enough to get the job done. From his book, Napun and Silly Putty. Dusting is a good example of the futility of trying to put things right. As soon as you dust, the fact of your next dusting has already been established. I collected autographs as a kid, not in any sort of hardcore way, but just hanging around the stage doors. And I loved Danny Kaye. He was in the stage show at Radio City, and I went and stood that door for over an hour. It was a rainy, cold day. I wasn't in the direct rain, but it was very cold and it was getting dark. As I stood there and waited for Danny Kaye, and he came, and I was the only kid there. And he walked right past me. He wouldn't even say anything. And I did my little rap, oh please, please, please. Then I see him with these UNICEF kids, with 30 of them sitting on his lap. And I knew he was full of shit on his will regarding his funeral. I wish no public service of any kind. I wish no religious service of any kind. I prefer a private gathering at my home, attended by friends and family members. It should be extremely informal. They should play rhythm and blues music, and they should laugh a lot. When I pass, and one day, hopefully many years from now, one day when I pass, I would like a memorial service in the United States, a memorial service in the United States in Philly for anyone who wants to go to that, and then my body will be shipped to be buried in Israel, the Holy Land. That's official. This is on a recording tape. So follow my death wishes, damn it. From his album FM and AM, on being fired from his Las Vegas lounge act in the early 60s. I was fired for saying shit in a town where the most popular game is called craps. Doing new stuff doing new stuff is a point of pride with me. People may not consider it so, but stand-up comedy is one of the performing arts, and artists are supposed to grow and evolve over time. Through the years, my technique has sharpened, my writing has improved, and even my observations have grown richer. I can't do old material. I would feel like a failure. Essentially, the job is that of a writer, but a writer who doesn't produce new work all the time is not a writer. He's a typist. From Carnegie, 1983. Did you ever do this? Look at your dog and think of the saddest thing you can think of? It looks like it's happening to your dog. All the sadness of the world is in the eyes of a dog. From his album, A Place for My Stuff. That's my job. Thinking up goofy shit. From his book, Brain Droppings. Always do whatever's next. Responding to claims that gay teachers recruit children and therefore shouldn't be teachers. If my teacher could have influenced my sexuality, I would have turned out to be a nun. As long as you have observations to make, as long as you can see things and let them register against your template, as long as you're able to take impressions and compare them with the old ones, you'll always have material. People have always asked me, you ever think you run out of ideas? Don't you ever worry about not having anything to say anymore? Occasionally the truth is I can't run out of ideas as long as I keep, processing new information, keep processing it. Already said that about the internet of appearances of what is and isn't on the internet. Next! Already did think about God and death, leading causes. Oh, here we go. Back in Town, 1996. On election day, I'll be doing the same thing you folks are doing, except when I'm finished masturbating, I'm going to have a little more to show for it. I already said that thing about the environment, and here we go. On replacing Ringo Starr on the conductor on replacing Ringo Starr as the conductor on Shining Time Station, I'm the anti-Pete Best. And now, last but not least, on the quality of Shining Time Station. That's usually a theme that runs through a show which respects, I think, a child's ability to follow. And yet, there is an interesting broken quality to the run of the show. It doesn't linger anywhere too long. And that was George Carlin's quotes. Check out my 7 Dirty Words on Spotify and then the converted video version on video formats.